Well, hello again. It's that time to talk about making your decisions easier and a little more aligned and a little more authentic. Are you ready? I'm excited. I'm your host, Kirsten Parker, and your decision coach for the episode. Let's talk about the most useful question you are probably not asking enough. Are you intrigued? I want you to know this question that we're going to talk about today applies to all of it. Whether you are in a zone, in a groove, and you just want to capitalize on it and keep getting better, or if you feel like you're in a kind of like, like a, ooh, things are changing. I'm uncomfortable. We're in a growth phase. It feels kind of good and kind of squishy. Or if you feel like you're kind of in a down mode, if you're in a little bit of a funk or a lull, or things have just been hard. This question is going to be so useful at any of these stages. And it's going to be useful in a lot of ways for your mindset, how you feel energetically and emotionally, what you get done, how your day to day goes and what you get done in your day to day, and also what you get done long term. Are you ready to find out what it is? Because this is a big one. There's a lot of stuff we just covered your mindset, how you feel, what you get done today and like this year. What question could possibly apply to all of those giant things in your life? The question I want you to start asking more and more and more and more is how can I make it easier? Now, let me let you take that in for a second because we have more to say on this question. There's kind of a right time and a right way to maximize the utility of this question. So, we're going to talk about the whens and the hows of how to use this to your highest advantage. We're not just talking about logistics. Logistics are great. I love me some logistics. If you can lay a plan out on a table and ask, how can we make it easier and find inefficiencies and close some gaps and bring on extra support to make it easier, do that. That sounds like a great Tuesday, my friend. But remember how I said this episode is going to help your mindset, how you feel, your day to day experience, and your long term progress and achievements? I want you to understand the nuances of what happens when you have this question in your back pocket and you apply it intentionally, strategically to different experiences and decisions. Okay. So we're going to talk about some examples. Inside Accountability April, which is a short term program I have running right now, full of people who want to capitalize on momentum. They want to get some stuff done. They want to move some things forward. They want to push past blocks or limits or some just life chaos that's been slowing down these projects that they want to really give intentional time to. So naturally, we are making a lot of decisions a lot of the time. It's very spicy. I'm enjoying it. And people are getting stuff done. And it is only the first week of April as I'm recording this, which is phenomenal. We're not going to run Accountability April again this year for obvious reasons, but you can go to kirstenparker.com/accountability. I'll link it in the show notes because I have a feeling this type of program is going to be useful for certain people multiple times through the year. So check that out because you'll be able to get on the wait list for the next time we do something like this. So you can get it on your own accountability coaching program. Now, this in and of itself is a great when to use the question, how can I make it easier? When you are intentionally turning up some heat, turning up some focus. Because what is happening when you're doing that? When you're wanting to kind of access that inner doubling down energy, where you're like, okay, I'm going to take this really seriously. Dang it. Even though I'm not going to take a break from any of the other things that I'm doing in my life, and I have never successfully been able to give this consistent attention and make progress on it. And I always end up getting in my own way and I always end up busy. I'm going to try. I'm going to try to commit to really doing it this time. What's happening in that scenario? What's happening is that you are trying to intentionally deviate from your norms. You are trying to take yourself off the path of least resistance and put yourself on the path of more resistance. I don't think we think about that enough. When we are trying to do new things, we are inherently creating resistance for ourselves because if we didn't do anything new, we would remain on the path of least resistance. So anything other than that is a path of more resistance. So we have to account for this in our expectations. We have to account for if you are trying to do something new, something different, something scary, however big it looks to anybody else, if it feels big to you, you are putting yourself in a position to feel resistance. You are putting yourself in a position to feel inclined to make slow decisions, to second guess things because it's all new and you don't want to put yourself in danger. So, this is not a you problem. This is a human thing. And we're not mad at it. So, that's the first example of a really, really appropriate when for pulling this question out of your back pocket and applying it to the big slash challenging slash scary thing in front of you. Let's talk about another when. In the Decision Masters program that we also have running right now, people are using a lot of energy to create new norms. They're doing big things. People are moving, they are exploring career change options, they are changing their schedules, they are building businesses. I saw big stuff. And they're also being very intentional about how they do these things. They're not wanting to repeat past patterns of burning themselves out or doing things the way that everyone around them wants them to, because that's the way it's always been done. So if you find yourself in this kind of situation where the how of what you're doing really matters, sometimes it even matters more than the what of what you're doing. One of my clients is building a business right now and she's having phenomenal success, which I am not surprised at all because she is a decision master. Something that she has been so intentional about from the get go is her how. How am I running this business? How am I using my time? How am I setting up my expectations of myself? Her what that she wanted, a successful business, was very important to her. But the how she respects her time, how she enacts boundaries, how she preserves and prioritizes her well being was more important. So when you are in this kind of situation, it's a great opportunity to pull this question out of your back pocket and ask, how can I make it easier all over the place? Don't worry, I'm going to get to breaking down what happens when you ask this question and the best way to walk through that. We also mentioned overwhelm at the start of the episode, and I want you to really hear me on this. If you are in an overwhelmed place, if you have found yourself at a baseline where things are just harder than you want them to be, they feel harder than you think they need to, or you've taken on too much and now you're kind of dealing with the aftermath of that and you can't instantly make everything easier. This is a particularly apt time to use this question. How can I make it easier? And if you're not all the way there yet, but you still feel like I have 17 plates spinning and I'm making decisions all day long, and I just feel like I'm either treading water or I get caught up. And then there's another pile to deal with. And you feel you're doing life, you're doing it, but you're not sure how sustainable it is because you might be on your way to that more overwhelmed place that we just described. This is where you're going to pull this question out and ask, how can I make it easier? So let's talk about how to use this question. Because, like I said, we're not just talking about logistics here. We're not just breaking down your game plan and looking for ways to like save 15 minutes or skip a step. The utility of this question lies in what it reveals as you go through the process of answering it. Because if you're doing it in the Decision Masters way, if you're really coaching yourself with this question and not just asking a logistics query, if you're coaching yourself with this question, you're going to lead yourself through a process of investigating your mindset. Because to answer, how can I make it easier? You naturally have to move your mind to revealing, what do I think will be hard? And being honest and specific about your answers to that question is going to reveal assumptions and limitations, which are the real obstacles you have to deal with. Those are the real keys to making things easier in your mindset, in your feelings, in your day to day experience, in your long term achievements. So let's step through it with some of these examples we've given. Let's say you want to start a business. Let's just use that example of you're doing something big slash challenging slash scary Insert the big, challenging, scary thing that you're taking on right now. You're leaving your path of least resistance. You're moving out of your comfort zone and you're putting yourself in a position to feel resistance. When you ask, how can I make it easier? Skillfully, your mind is going to next go to, well, what do I think is going to be hard? And you're not going to accept the answer, everything. You're going to be articulate and you're going to be specific and you're going to be honest and you're going to be non judgmental because you're coaching yourself. And that's how we do. So your answer might be, well, what do I feel like is going to be hard? Building a website's going to be hard. Hiring a social media person is going to be hard. And working on weekends is going to be hard. What fascinating data. Okay, so we breathe, we take a breath. We're not listing things out to inflate our overwhelm here. We're asking all of this in the spirit of how can I make it easier? What you just revealed to yourself were a bunch of beliefs. I have to build a website. I have to hire a social media person. I have to work on weekends. This is where the coaching comes in. This is where the nuance of using this question comes in because we are prone to believe our own thoughts. Shocking. I know. Who came up with this system? So you got to be a little objective. You got to be a little open. You got to be a little curious. Imagine your inner coach having this conversation with you. This is why having an actual coach is so freaking handy for working through this stuff in a faster and less effortful way. But you can do it. You can have these conversations with yourself. You just have to have a little distance between your answer and believing and acting on your answer. So notice when you answer, what do I think is going to be hard? Building a website, hiring this person, working on weekends. You've just given yourself a set of beliefs that you can now question. Wait a minute. Did I sit down and decide consciously that I need to build a website? Where did that come from? When did that get decided? Well, remember, you're inclined to believe your own thoughts. So this will probably feel like a fact. I have to hire a social media person. I have to work on weekends. Whatever the assumption is, it won't feel like an assumption. It'll feel like a fact. It's like the minions in our minds walk around with these little appetizer trays of beliefs and they just serve them to us. Like, here's your truth platter. This is true. This is a fact. Handing it to you on a platter. Here it is. And it's your job as someone growing their decision mastery to recognize that you don't have to believe everything you think. And you can still, you're allowed to, but you want to question it so that you feel like you are in charge of everything you're deciding. You're basing your decisions on how you build this business or do whatever the big scary thing is on a set of assumptions that you never questioned. You don't feel in charge. You feel limited. You feel like, well, I don't have a say. I'm just playing by somebody else's rules here. And you deprive yourself of opportunities to do things in a way that feels better and works better for you. That's how we're going to make it easier. Now you get to decide, do I need a website? And really ask. Remember, there will be so many minions in your mind fighting to defend the factness of this truth, of this quote unquote truth. You will not want to question these things because it will feel like a fact because you either have believed it your whole life or someone that you respect or fear or trust has told you it is a fact, or everything on the internet confirms it's a fact. And I promise I am not taking your facts away from you. You are allowed to decide that I have to have a website to build this business. Are you ready for more nuance though? Let's get even more specific about what you think is going to be hard. Building on an entire website with multiple pages full of videos from a shoot that you haven't done yet or even scheduled and don't know how you're going to pay for and don't know what the content's going to be and have all of that done by next weekend. Okay. Breathing again. See how asking this question over and over again can reveal more and more details about what you're already thinking. And details about what you're thinking are just opportunities to think different things. Oh, it's like a magic trick. It literally just happened inside Accountability April when someone was making assumptions about what was and wasn't possible just because they felt true. And having an outside perspective offered of just, well, what if this wasn't true? Literally, how could you make it easier? Changed everything, changed her whole plan. And bigger than that, changed her perception of what's possible. She got to remember, oh, I do get to be in charge. of what I decide is possible because I get to be in charge of how I do all of this. So, in this example we're using, we would go on to question, do you have to hire a social media manager? Spoiler alert, no. But do you have to work on weekends? How can we make this easier? And you are giving yourself full authority to make the decisions that best serve you. You know what? What would make it easier is deciding I don't have to work on weekends. Maybe I will choose to some of the time when my life allows, but what would make this easier? What would make it easier to get the result I want, which is putting this business out into the world, seeing what happens, proving to myself that I can do it. It would make it easier to not decide in advance you have to be miserable and burn yourself out with a schedule that feels terrible. Yeah, that would make it easier. Let's use another example. Let's say you have a big house clean out to do. I'm actually working with a few clients who are doing this right now who are like, all right, I have this big project. I know it's going to feel so good when it's done. I want to feel better in my space. So you have that kind of project ahead of you. Kind of makes your face do this some of the time. When you ask, how can I make it easier? You're going to lead yourself through this exploration of your beliefs. All right, what do I think is going to be hard? Doing everything by myself, getting it done on time, and making a million decisions about what to keep and what to let go of. Brilliant. Now we're going to question each one of those thoughts. And I have to put a caveat on this. We are not being thought police. We are not opening the door to your mind and shining a flashlight in there, being like, hey, where are all the crappy thoughts we got going on here? You're wrong. You talking to you. That's not what we're doing. We're checking for what feels true. And then we're checking, did you decide that? Do you like that it feels true? Is it worth exploring a world in which it could not be true? How might it be half true, but half not true? For whom wouldn't this be true? That's a great question. When you consider who do I think this rule wouldn't apply to? Like, yeah, other people might be able to not work on weekends, but I would have to for this reason. Other people might be able to hire help to move them, but I can't for this reason. We're not calling those thoughts wrong. We're questioning, do you like believing them? Which leads me to my next caveat. You don't have to like everything you believe. I know we're talking about mindset. We're talking about empowering yourself. The truth of reality is that sometimes we believe things because we do think they're true. And sometimes we don't like the truth. Sometimes the truth actually sucks quite a bit. So you are allowed to keep any thought that you want, even if you don't feel good about it. And what we're not doing is we're not lying to ourselves. We're not lying to ourselves that even though everything in us says this is going to be so hard and scary, we're not saying, just tell yourself it won't be. Get over it. Pretend it's fine. Pretend you're fine. We're not doing that because that doesn't work. We're leaving space for, all right, even if I am really convinced this is going to be hard, I'm going to allow myself to hold that belief at the same time as the belief that it can be easier. What if both things were true at the same time? What if whatever you're thinking about doing can be hard and it can be easier? You can make it easier. That's what introducing this question over and over and over all over your life will actually do. It will build the mindset that you can do anything because it is based on the belief that it is possible to make things easier, which is so different than showing up to a project or a task or even a text message you got to write with the mindset, this has to be hard, period. No other beliefs, no room for any other beliefs. Do you see the difference? Is building a business hard? Yeah, I won't argue with that. I've done it. I wouldn't say that it was easy the entire time, but does it have to be hard? Period. And does that mindset, does believing it has to be hard, period, does it serve you? Is that going to support you having the experience you want and feeling the way you want and creating the results you want? Probably not. Asking, how can I make it easier over and over and over again? Just assuming that you're allowed to pose that question to anything in your life, whether it's setting up your kids' summer plans or buying your mother in law's birthday present or going on a once in a lifetime trip that you never ever thought you would do, or writing a book that you've been thinking about for 10 years. If you're allowed to pose this question to anything in your life, You will be constantly reinforcing the mindset that you can make things easier, that you are capable, that you are resourceful, that you can do anything. So this is your homework for the week. All right. I know you didn't sign up for homework, but I'm giving it to you anyway because it's going to make your life easier and better and more fun. So just try it. Try it with the big thing that's on your mind that you've been wanting to smallify and make progress on. Try it with your day at work. Just take 15 minutes out of your day. It doesn't have to be a long, arduous process. It can be on a walk you take to the coffee shop and back. Use that time to think through your day. How could I make my day easier? And answer it strategically, right? Watch your mind move through the examination of your thoughts because that will lead you to what do I feel like is hard? What makes my day hard? Your answers might include things like, well, going from meeting to meeting to meeting, back to back, and never feeling like I have a free second to think or even process makes my day hard. What else? Always putting some aspirational thing on the calendar that I really want to get to the thing, but inevitably moving it every single day because other priorities displace it. That makes my day hard. Okay, great. You're on a roll. You're getting your coffee. You're enjoying the sunshine. Your endorphins are going. Let's do this. Having a little coaching session with yourself on your break time. Yes. What assumptions are baked into those things that you are just naming? Is there an assumption that you can't schedule in breaks or buffer time to your day? Is there an assumption that someone will get mad? Is that true? Is there an assumption that it will steal time from you and make you less productive? Is that true? Is there an assumption or a limitation going on that really makes it feel like you are not allowed to give time to your priorities and you're just going to have to wait and wait and wait and wait and wait to get to this stuff that you would really like to keep on your calendar? Let's question that. That is how this question impacts your long-term experience and achievements. You see what we did there? If you're going through your days and accepting a limitation over and over and over again, or if you're thinking about a big goal, but accepting limitations and assumptions over and over and over again, you are impacting the trajectory of your life. A year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, you will end up somewhere different than if you allow yourself to question those assumptions and limitations today. Because guess what happens? We start picking them apart. We start pulling at threads and we find out, no, this actually really matters that you give this time in your day. And that time's not going to show up on its own anytime soon in the next year. So if a year from now, you want to have given this project time or you want to have made your days easier and it's not going to happen on its own, what? We just gave ourselves permission to prioritize it. Question and assumption changed your whole life trajectory. Bada bing, bada boom. So, holy moly. Did we just go on a ride? I'm a little out of breath. I gotta be honest, the inspiration for this episode came from me literally needing to record an episode. And I was thinking about my limited time to outline an episode and record it. And I was thinking about all of the amazing people in the DMP, the Decision Masters program, all the amazing people in Accountability April. And what does everyone have in common? What's a tool everyone needs? And what's something I can do, I can use to make this podcast easier? That's my natural process. I saw myself thinking, oop, I don't know if I have time for a whole podcast episode. And then per our conversation a few episodes ago, because the podcast is non-negotiable and I've already made that decision, my only option was I got to do one that's pretty effortless to write, pretty effortless to record, doesn't need a lot of steps. And then I found it. Oh, literally asking, how can I make it easier is the key to so much success and so much pride and so much life experience that you don't want to miss out on. You don't want to deprive yourself of that. So I hope you have the best time utilizing this question. That's your homework. Let me know what you make easier. Let me know what assumptions you find out. You can do this by emailing me at coaching@kirstenparker.com. Make sure you're on my list so you get my podcast emails every week. They are, to toot my own horn for a second, I get a lot of feedback on my emails because they're not just summaries of the episode and like a button to listen to it. They do summarize things, but I want to make really good use of your inbox real estate. To be frank, I know that it's precious. I know that it's super valuable and I don't want to waste it. So I want you to be able to look forward to your emails every week and know that you're going to get something out of it, even if you never listen to the episode or if you don't listen to it for like 3 weeks. So get on my email list. The funnest way to do that is by going to kirstenparker.com/quiz. Take the decision style quiz. That's in the show notes. You can also reach out to me on TikTok at The Decision Coach or Instagram at KP Coaching. And I can't wait to hear from you. Go make something easy. Have a beautiful day. Hey, want to find out your decision style? Obviously, go take the decision style quiz. It's in the show notes and at kirstenparker.com/quiz. We all have our style when it comes to making decisions, but do you know how to use your default way of thinking to your advantage? Or do you mainly get stuck in the most annoying parts of overthinking and people pleasing? The decision style quiz has your answers, my friend. Take it right now at kirstenparker.com/quiz.